How does data literacy enable digital transformation? What impact do data skills have on changing enterprise culture? And how can data literacy enable diversity within the business? In this episode, we discuss the impact of data literacy on digital transformation with Wes Strait, Director of Technology Transformation at Best Buy. Welcome to Data Humanized, presented by Correlation One. In each episode, we bring you the unique perspective of enterprise leaders at the intersection of technology and humanity who are leading cultural transformation through the power of data. You'll also hear the real-life stories of learners who have graduated from the Data Science for All program and who are embarking on new career pathways, creating a more inclusive, collaborative, and effective workforce. I'm your host, Mark Palmer. Please visit the Correlation One website for more about how data literacy transforms enterprises, and tell your friends about the Data Humanized podcast. 93% of companies reported spending more on AI in 2022, yet less than 30% of digital transformation projects are successful. And the spending just keeps increasing. By 2025, companies will spend $2.8 trillion on digital transformation projects per year. That's more than double of 2020's total. So how can leaders ensure that their tech investments deliver results? The answer is data literacy in their workforces. High-performing businesses have a much higher rate of data literacy versus average companies. Now, but here's the problem. 75% of us don't feel ready to operate in a digital-first world. We have some work to do, and that's why we created Data Humanized, to discuss the best practices of companies that are getting it right. For better data science, hire fewer data scientists. Hire and create more data humanist jobs through data literacy. These are the folks with critical thinking skills, humanist skills like writing, communication, and storytelling, and subject matter expertise. 40% of our workforce needs to be fundamentally retrained to make the leap and fulfill the demand for these data humanist roles. In this podcast, we explore how enterprise leaders are accomplishing just that. Joined today by Wes Strait. He is the Director of Analytics Transformation at Best Buy, a company that I think most in North America and Canada know. So looking forward to the conversation today. Welcome, Wes.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. And yeah, I hope everyone in North America knows about us.
For sure. I mean, my gosh, 56 years, 1,000 stores. You know, I found a little known fact that I love, that the original name of the store was The Sound of Music.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and didn't know that, but certainly love the store. And I wanted to start this off with a little fun question, which is, what's your favorite product at Best Buy? And while you're thinking of that, right, I'm going to tell you my favorite product is the Geek Squad, because I love that service. You know, to me, it's like the pre-crime division in Minority Report, right? Where like when I'm trying to fix something at my house, I'm about to mess it up, I call those guys and they make it so I don't hang my TV in the wrong direction and have it fall. So, but you're the expert at Best Buy. I'm curious what little known product we might know, or what's your favorite from the store?
You've actually started with probably the hardest question for me, because there's so much I do like in the store. I will say that, last year I purchased a drone, and that's probably the thing I've got the most use out of, is flying a drone around. So we'll go with that one.
Ooh, that's cool. All right. Well, that's going to be a host guest gift, I think, for myself. Oh. I've been looking at one for a while. So, all right. Well, look, let's get into it. Like, we're, the goal of this podcast is to talk about digital transformation, diversity and culture, careers and helping mentor people. So I'd like to start off though with the context too about, other than the cool name Sound of Music, why did you choose Best Buy? What was your driver to join the company? I always like to think of Simon Sinek's question of the why, why you guys are in business. What are you passionate about, what you do? So,
yeah. Well, it works pretty well because, Best Buy's purpose is to enrich lives through technology. And I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing my whole life, professionally and personally, right? I've been all around technology. And so to come into a company where, everyone, whether they're in finance, supply chain, or in the actual technology team, has some geekiness to them, right? They like the technology products we sell. And, especially in the areas I've worked, You get to try a lot of new things, and it's a pretty nimble company despite its age. And it's exciting to be here.
Well, one of the things in terms of the why, when I was looking into Best Buy, that I didn't realize is you've got this theme of doing a world of good, right? Things like complying with the Paris Agreement 10 years in advance and recycling all sorts of stuff. Although I did look at your list and they don't have karaoke machines. My wife has a huge karaoke machine. I'm going to have to figure out what to do one day. But could you talk about that in terms of your role there with transformation and sort of the overall mission of Best Buy and the things that you work
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. So, number one, I'm glad you read our ESG report. Apparently, that definitely gives a lot of perspective on the different initiatives that we have. And I'll make sure to take the feedback on the karaoke machine, see if we can get that
Yeah,
get
please
that on the
do.
list. I've used the recycling service quite a bit myself, so that's one of the great things. But in my role, a lot of my work is around our talent and connecting into different communities. So if you look at that report, part of what we want to do is also make sure we're bringing in diverse talent, and also making sure the team kind of reflects the communities that they're in. So for me, it's connecting to programs like the Data Science for All program, to help kind of pull up those underrepresented groups and get them into some analytics careers.
Yeah, and for the people that might not be aware, we're sponsored by Correlation One, right, which runs this Data Science for All program, which is how I got involved on their board of advisors, because I just started by volunteering to be a mentor about 3 years ago, and loved the program so much I joined the board. So it really is a great program, and that's can you talk then, therefore, about Best Buy's involvement, why you got involved, and what have been some of the cultural um, changes that have kind of come about as a result of that
Yeah.
program and other things that you're doing. You're doing a lot of things there, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. So, I mean, the work within Data Science for All, there's correlations to some other things that I work with. So we'll talk about that first. Um, we looked at, number one, it's a giant pool of great talent that's getting trained up. So these are people we're looking to have join our team. So there's a recruiting aspect, but then there's the mentoring aspect. I think we'll talk more about that later. But having our team have a kind of a conduit to go out and mentor people in the analytics community helps them upskill and develop themselves, while also helping the community as a whole. And then there's also the ability for sending people through as fellows into that program. So actually taking
Mhm.
people within Best Buy who maybe are not in analytics but have a passion for it. It gave us another conduit to put them into and get the training and the great outcomes from that program, and then maybe move into a new role here within the organization.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things. Can you talk about that a little bit more, because that's what I think is particularly interesting, right? Where a lot of the folks, this isn't about training college students, right? Even
Yeah,
though that's important as well. I think the upskilling and cross skilling is super important. One of my favorite things is that I have this odd point of view, perhaps to some, which is that to do better data science, we should hire fewer data scientists,
yeah,
meaning, but we should actually focus on getting people that have humanist, I call them data humanists, right? Which is people with more humanist data skills, or understanding the mission of Best Buy, for example, getting them some data literacy, and then having them cross skill, upskill into analytics jobs, et cetera. So I think it sounds like you do that
yeah.
at Best Buy. So can you talk about that a little bit, and if you agree with my perhaps unconventional point of view?
Yeah, no, I love the data humanist term, and I'd probably say I tweak it a little bit. We're not going to try and go out and hire all the data humanists, but how do we build more data humanists within the organization? And that's part of that upskilling, reskilling perspective. Taking someone who's maybe in technology or maybe working in data and as like a demand planning analyst, but really they're enjoying that and they want to get into more of a career where that's what they do every day. One of the things I'd love to see is almost have an analytics team that serves more like an incubator. So we've got people who maybe came out of a different role. We've brought them in. They get to work with the analytics team and grow, and then maybe go back out into a different role in the business. Now you've got that data culture out there, the humanist.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about Sarah Julius. Wes,
Oh,
because Sarah, I mean, I love to really get specific about this, right? Because
yeah,
Sarah posted on LinkedIn recently about going through, I think the Data Science for All program, and has now
yeah.
taken a position in the decision science group at Best Buy, right? So there's a
That's right.
case in point, right?
Yeah, so Sarah Julius SJ, I can't talk more enough about her, and we could use the rest of the podcast if you want. But yeah, she's someone that was in like a program leadership role in our technology area. I had talked with her a couple times, and she really had a passion for wanting to get into more data. She used data in her role, where she was leading like our diversity and inclusion efforts, and she's always looking at data. Um, and then in one of the conversations, I pointed out this Data Science for All program. And one day she just told me she had applied for it and got in. And I'm like, great. And she went through the whole thing and got done. And we have a role that worked out for her to move into. And it's just the perfect story.
It really is incredible, because data science is not for the faint of heart, right?
No,
I always tell everybody, I love the sort of that, it's hard to get into this program, right? It is also hard to get through. People have full
yeah,
time jobs, and they get through and they learn. Maybe they didn't like statistics in school.
yeah.
Shocker, for some people might not, but sounds like she
She
got through and it worked out well for her.
she had a great perspective on it. I mean, she knew that it was going to be a lot of extra work, and I think she'd made like these rings, paper rings that she'd attached for the 16 weeks of the program. It's like visual indicator of her progress through that, and knowing it would be worth it at the end.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
Actually, that should be a standard part of the program then.
yeah.
So,
Maybe you just send it out as a kit to everybody.
well, there's another story that I like too, that I learned about, which is Ann Hellison, and her mentee named Ha Bui. I connected with both of them, because it it really strikes me that literacy programs, and then particularly mentoring programs, are a two-way street, right? There's this idea of reverse mentoring, where the mentor gets as much out of it as the mentee. So that's another example right from Best Buy. I'm curious if you've got color about Ann and Ha, and
Yeah.
kind of how that made a dent on the Best Buy culture and making it more diverse.
Yeah, and I think there's a great write up that's out there that Anne did around. It's probably what you saw that got you the information. But remember back, I said some of the different benefits we looked at in the program. One of them is that mentoring, and I think you hit a good point of the reverse mentoring as well, right? Our team gains by going out and doing that, and the experience they get. Maybe someone who's trying to pivot their career. That's very different than if you're mentoring someone in the organization that's already doing something. You have different conversations and different things you're going to talk about, and you learn and grow from those experiences as well. And we want our team to also help raise up that community that's outside the walls of our organization.
Mhm.
That there are potential people who maybe join our team down the road, or will be interacting with in some way. They might work at a different company and see a role at Best Buy someday. So it's about getting out and building those relationships, and it pays dividends for everyone. That quote of "rising tides lifts all boats," right?
Yep. Yep. No, for sure. I want to get to culture change outside the company as well in a minute, but
Yeah.
something you said, I want to know, for people that are listening that might be in a similar role, like how do you get Anne's and Sarah's to step up into these roles? I love this quote from Balaji Shivasan, who is pretty well known, Silicon Valley thinker and podcaster. He talks about, like, the role of a leader is to find hidden genius, right? Your job is to go out there and kind of solicit and encourage people to volunteer, but at the end of the day, they have to volunteer. It's like Anne just like applied and went for it and created her paper rings, and
Yeah.
right. But how do you systematize that, I guess, is the question, Wes.
Oh, well, I don't know if it's quite a systematized operation, but I think in both cases, it's finding kind of the why for
Mhm.
people, right? It's not just telling them, "Hey, you should go do mentoring," but what's the why behind it? And like Anne looked at what I suggested to her for this program, and she said, "Oh, this is something that targets getting more women into the field. I want to
Mhm.
do that. She's looking around the room, and despite best efforts, it just by nature, right? There's less women in the room right now, in
Mhm.
technology and analytics careers. So she wanted to get in and help do that. That was her why. There's all kinds of people who will have different whys and why they want to get involved. And I think it's finding out what those are and helping, connect them to the right opportunities.
Yep, yep, no doubt. Well, that's great. They're great examples and good advice on how to scale it out. Well, let's shift to talk about digital transformation because, of course, analytics transformation is your job.
Yeah.
So, how does all of this? I mean, it's all great, right? Like we all know that this is a important thing, but I'm curious about your take on how changing and evolving the culture and the diversity of views helps with making Best Buy more transformative.
Oh, all right. I think I got your whole
I know, big
question there.
questions. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, first I'll start with maybe the word transformation. You know, I think organizations, they've for a while they've actually had people who are really strong in data and literacy. The problem is they're concentrated in the analytics team,
Mhm.
and the transformation piece is hitting on some of the things we talked about with the humanists. Is how do you get that interest, passion, and some skill set out across the entire organization? Certainly you're always going to have that analytics group, but you don't want them to be a bottleneck, right? You're never going to grow that team big enough
Mhm.
to handle every single data issue, every single data question that you could have. So I think from a transformation perspective, it's enabling more people outside the org to understand the data. I think in our discussion, you talked about like the citizen data scientist and how
Mhm.
you wouldn't want a citizen surgeon operating on you, but we would absolutely love to have people who could at least understand what the surgeon's talking about and have a good perspective on what's happening.
Yeah, well, that to me is the data humanist, right? People that
Yeah,
know enough, like maybe they can read an MRI, but you don't want them opening a table
you
and perform the surgery, right? So I think that's like a key new sort of working, division type of people, right? That have some
yeah.
domain expertise. So can you talk a little bit about, from a transformation perspective, how you get those people out into the business line and making change once they have that basic data literacy? One of the examples I love about this is Morgan Stanley. The chief analytics officer is a guy named Jeff McMillan, who has done some podcasts about this. He calls them decentralized centers of excellence, right? Where you've got these people like an Ann, right, that are out there now with the literacy going out and impacting the business and maybe making some changes at Best Buy. So sounds like you do something similar, right? And that you're talking about trying to get these folks out, with the business stakeholders. How do you go about
Yeah.
that at Best Buy?
Well, yeah, and I think I mean today that fits still within our analytics org under our decision
Mhm.
science team. So those team members have more of an emphasis on that consulting business skill than like the technology skills of data science, doing like programming and R and Python and deep statistics. So we've got that decision science team working side by side with whichever functional area of the
Okay.
business. And they're getting a good understanding then of what is it, what are the challenges, what are the things we need to be thinking of from that data and analytics
Yeah.
perspective.
Okay. And that sounds like very similar to the decentralized center of excellence, right? Where you're not sitting up on
Yeah,
a mountaintop somewhere supplying the answers, but you're doing teaming.
yeah,
Valerie Logan, who's the CEO of a company called the Data Lodge, which is a culture change company for data literacy, talks about them as culture captains, right? Where they go out and they team up. So it sounds like you do similar things. So do you actually team up
yeah.
people that are just sort of data literate with the business unit on a sort of on a project basis, on a sprint basis, or how do you think about that, or is it more episodic than even that, or systematic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it can kind of vary based on what that need is, right? So it could be kind of a project basis or sprint, depending if they're running more of an agile approach. But there's a lot of things that are just ad hoc needs. And I think those are the more interesting ones. Like, hey, we need to know like what this number is, or what would be the impact of doing a certain thing. And that's where a lot of fun can come, where you've got maybe someone in the business who has an idea or a question, maybe some base skill in data, and now you've partnered them with kind of the race car that can really help accelerate
That's a
things.
really good point. I think it's also overlooked. I find some companies getting a very heavyweight center of excellence process, right? Where these more,
Yeah,
I heard somebody talk about this as a micro consulting, right? Where you've got, oh, here's a problem. Can I just ask somebody? And sometimes I think right when you're in the context of the problem, that's a great way to do it.
yeah,
Um, can we geek out about decision science? Because Anne talked about taking a role in the decision science group, I think it was called, or you call it at Best Buy. And the
yeah,
geeky part of it is I love the notion that these data humanists, if they can apply behavioral economics and neuroscience to decision making, or another way to say it is a lot of companies say, oh, I want to be data driven, but it really should be more, I want to be decision driven, right? Like, let's start with a why, to use your
yeah.
your phrase. Yeah. So do you guys think that way at Best Buy?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, outcome
Mhm.
based, right? So not just we want to be more data driven. What are the outcomes from the business you're trying to drive? And I think that decision science group that SJ moved into and Anne is actually a part of already, they that's their mission. It's like, okay, let's figure out what is it the business needs and what's the outcome they're trying to drive. Not just we want a number to show up on a report, right? Like, but what are you going to do with that? What is the business objective of this? And are there other indicators maybe we could give you that help drive that? So, I think that human aspect of really understanding what are they going after. That's that decision science group's role.
Cool. No, that's exactly. There's a nice book that I think I might have mentioned by George Anders called "You Can Do Anything," and he talks about this is like sort of a silent majority of data transformation jobs, which is this data humanist role. He did some
Yeah,
analysis that found that they're growing just as fast as data science jobs, but there's 7 times more of them, right? Like, because these are the
yeah.
mainstream ones within, like, for example, Best Buy. Like, what kind of things would decision science? I mean, I'm pretty ignorant of how Best Buy actually works, other than the Geek Squad and buying stuff from you. So, like, what kind of decisions are they thinking of? Is it obviously
Yeah.
targeting customers for offers and things like that? But maybe something. Maybe you could shed some light on
I
some
mean,
non-secret Best Buy, decisions.
yeah, yeah. I can't give you all the secret sauce, but I can make it pretty generic for you here because it's pretty easy. That decision science group is involved in answering questions and providing insights across all areas of our business, right? So you hit on some marketing things, giving offers, recommendations on the website. But it's even like, where should we put stores? And understanding who are the customers and segmenting them and making sure we're meeting their needs. Analyzing our new membership program that we launched last year, Total Tech, which it sounds like you should join, and we can talk more about that later. But it's literally every kind of question you might want to look at. That group is helping support it across the business.
Cool. Well, tell them if they offer free drones, I'm in. So
Well, with your Total Tech membership, if you crash your drone, you can at least get it fixed or
uh,
replaced.
I'm in. I'm already in. You convinced me. I
There
love
you
it.
go.
So now let's kind of look outside Best Buy a little bit, because I know you're really active in things
Yeah.
like hackathons, right? So I think you touched upon it before, the external culture change point of view. Obviously, Best Buy's got an amazing brand here in North America, so I know you spend a lot of time out at hackathons. You guys sponsored Minibar, I think it's called, right? There were 800 people involved in that hackathon to do, obviously some collaboration and inspiration. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you view that as part of your role, for transformation on analytics?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it hits on again providing kind of conduits for our team to do things maybe that they haven't had opportunities to do, right? So whether it's going out in public speaking, going out and mentoring and supporting other folks in the analytics community. Again, it pays dividends down the road for us to help that community in so many ways. So I look at those hackathons as great opportunities for the team to go practice new skills. and also they're just fun, right? Like you don't get to go and sit in 24 hours and solve problems like that very often, and have perspectives from maybe students, other companies that are involved. You just gain so much from it in terms of
What were
perspective.
some of your favorite projects? I know you're really involved in that. I'm always there's always like a project in those things that jumps out to me as like oh boy, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Like for example, like do you bring in a bunch of data and say to them where should we put the next Best Buy? Like that kind of stuff. But yeah, what kind of stuff have
Yeah.
you seen?
Actually, so we did one with one of our partners, Georgia Tech in Atlanta, where we actually gave them Best Buy data, and the students all worked on a problem for us, looking at things that don't sell very often, right? So maybe one a week, one a month, like this sort of like very low volume item. And the team there, they had 21 different teams of students competing on this to help us come up with a better algorithm to forecast those. And it couldn't just be like throw all the horsepower at it, because if it takes 8 days to run your model and we need a 7-day forecast, it's not going to work out very well for us. So I love that one because they brought different perspectives to the problem that our team learned from, and they had developed some things that we were like, hey, well, let's take this so we can use it. And the students themselves love the experience from what they
Man,
gain.
I really like that example. Sometimes you go to these things and it's just some abstract, random problem, right?
Yeah.
But you guys actually asked and the great thing about Best Buy is so many people can relate to your questions, right?
The very first thing anytime I go somewhere, I don't have to explain what the company does. That makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I ask the question every time, and no one raises
Yeah,
their hand if they
yeah.
don't
Boy,
know
I
it.
wish I
So
had that
we're
luxury. I never worked for a company that my mother understood. That's always my thing. But
off.
although now, actually, maybe she'll be listening to this. All right, so let's wrap up with my favorite like little 1 2 3 segment here. Right, I'm gonna ask you for one quote, two books, and three action items. Right, so you're kind of your favorite, starting with kind of an inspirational quote that maybe folks might not have
Yeah.
heard of, or you think represents what you're doing at Best Buy with data literacy and culture change and transfer.
Yeah. So the first one, I'm not sure the origins of this as like a quote, or if it even is a quote, but you've probably heard it, and that is, "We're often our own worst critics." Right. So I've used that one many times to try and once I understood kind of that, it's like, okay, maybe I didn't do as bad in that meeting as I thought, or this work wasn't as bad, and everyone else is giving this positive reinforcement. So once you can kind of understand your own worst critic, it helps you understand and trust that positive feedback you're getting, and do some more things outside your
All
comfort
right. Well,
zone.
for the record, it's not just because you're here with me. I think you did great in this podcast. It's been really great learning from you.
Oh, thanks.
I know you weren't fishing for it, but I had to say it because you made me
Yeah.
think about it. So two books, and the spin on this,
uh,
if you had to take, I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to go like this. May be a really hard one to do, but if you took two books to a desert island and you had to reread them over and over and over again,
Oh,
yeah, and you don't have to put that spin on it either, but maybe something that
okay.
would be
Well,
helpful that
because
people they might have missed that they should read
well,
about.
yeah. So, I mean, I was going to take a different spin on it
Yeah, go
myself,
for it.
and well, I think, especially in like an always on kind of work culture, you have to find your conduits to unplug,
Mm.
and books are one of the ways I do that. So a lot of what I do would fall more in like fiction and entertainment. I do audiobooks now to make use of the commute times. But I'm more on the business side. I mean, find some of the different things. I get a lot from like the Harvard Business Review. They send out a newsletter. Find podcasts. Hopefully, people like this one. I've got a couple that just pop up from time to time on my LinkedIn feed, and give them a shot at least once, and see if it's some relevant things. Um, those are probably desert island. I would definitely make sure I had a good fiction book.
Well, no, I got to get a title out of you, and I'm gonna actually throw out a few of mine because I love what you said about
Okay.
unplugging. Right, like right now I'm reading Rick Rubin's new book, which is fantastic. If people don't know who he is, he's probably one of the most prodigious producers of music, beginning back with like the Beastie Boys and all the way up to Johnny Cash's last sort of albums, including the one that won the big Grammys, Adele, like a whole bunch of people. It's a very reflective book. To your point, Wes, it's like definitely one that I could read on an island for a while. So there's one by me,
Yeah,
and then
well,
there's another similar one by a guy named Haruki Murakami, who is a Japanese writer. Who it's about writing, and it's also very reflective and a sort of a slow thinking kind of book. But I can't let it off the hook. You got to give me a title. Okay, your fiction book. I want to hear your fiction book you bring to the island. Come on.
well, I am definitely a big fan of like sci-fi. So one of the series that I love listening to because they do like good voice acting and things as well. It's called The Undying
Oh wow!
Mercenaries.
All
So
right.
yeah, very very futuristic, where you have an army that they can't die.
I love the title.
I think there's like 18 books already in the series,
I,
so it's been
I
going
had
for
no
a
idea,
while.
and it's on my list now. Okay, so now 3 actions
Yeah.
takeaways.
Do it as an audiobook though, so you can get the great
Okay.
voice
Oh
acting.
yeah, of course. Right. That sounds like I need to do it that way. Awesome. Love it. Be on
Yeah.
my bike ride playlist next. 3 actions or calls to action. Then, other
Yeah.
than reading maybe our book or a new podcast or an audio book.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your takeaway with what people should think about when they think about transformation and data literacy and the sort of themes
Yeah.
of this podcast?
So I think one, look to diversify your mentorship relationships, whether you're the mentee or the mentor. I've mentored so many folks, and it's very easy to just sit back and look around. And, you pick a mentor, and it's someone who looks like you, right? I've had that happen many times. So I would say challenge yourself if you're a mentor to find different groups of people to be the mentor to, and the same if you're a mentee. Seek out other people and get that diversity in those relationships. To continue learning in any way that will get you to engage with it. So, reading business books was not on my list, as you can tell. But if there are ways that will engage you, always keep learning and make use of any of the tools that an organization gives you for that. And I guess I would close on be part of the change. So if there's something you don't like, how can you get involved and make it better?
I love it. I think your first and third are quite related too, which is to reach out. I love the stories. That's why we kind of brought them up, right? Those are people that just sort of took action, right? Because nobody's going to tell
Yeah,
you to, be a change agent, if you will, or
right.
Balaji's thing about finding hidden genius. It kind of it normally, I think, has to come at you, and it's got to be motivated by a why and everything that you've pointed out here, Wes. It's been great. Awesome. Well, hey, it's great talking to you. You will forever be our
Yeah.
first guest on
Oh, I love it.
the
Inaugural
yeah,
podcast
yeah.
guest.
So you'll always be number one for us. And
I was going to say it can only get better from here then, right?
no, you're being too self. You're harsh. Your own harshest critic.
There
No,
you
it's been
go.
great, and I hope everybody listening enjoyed it. And thanks a lot for taking time out of your day to join us, Wes.
Oh,
And I'll
it's
be joining
been a pleasure.
your new program and getting that free drone soon.
Yes. All
All right.
right.
Thanks a lot, Wes. Next, we'll hear from Luis, a graduate from the Correlation One Data Science for All program, about how his experience was more than just a boot camp. It empowered him to think differently about data and how his new skills are already starting to pay off.
It would be a little bit too easy, I think, to call it Data Science for All just a data science boot camp, which is what I thought I was signing up for. But as we wrap up, I can see this program has served a much greater purpose than that. Of course, we've gained significant data analysis and visualization skills, which is awesome. And we've graduated from figuring out how to import, these pre-made requirement files into our workbooks and Googling data science model, to developing an appreciation for our favorite and most powerful Python libraries, plot types, and graphing toolkits, which is pretty cool. But we were also given a new lens through which we can interact with the world, with problems and projects at work and in our own lives. And I think that new lens will be one of the greatest benefits of the program. Some of the structural benefits of Data Science for All. Awesome, knowledgeable, and supportive TAs. Shout out to Sammy, who would talk me out of dropping out when all of my time commitments seemed to be converging and coming to a head. We also have world-class instructors who share their experience and expertise in data science and who talked us through real-life applications of their craft. And now we can, talk about those experiences confidently in interviews, at work, and even over dinner with our families. We had interesting and realistic cases where we applied real time the skills we were learning about. And we also have some incredibly dedicated professionals who are leading DS4A. Of course, not to mention the DJs and their fire playlists, which is always awesome. At work, I'm actually on the team that's creating a machine learning based chatbot. And I've been able to apply the skills that I've learned here as we comb through a lot of data. The data that we interact with is complex, and it digs at human behavior and needs that, if properly analyzed and acted on, will provide significant value add to our company and our clients. And that's a great feeling. I've had the chance to apply things that I've learned here at DS4A at work, and it's been noticed. I've gotten the chance to present my findings to department heads, and I'm working on a cool initiative that I came up with that will build on the skills that I've picked up here. One of the things we've been talking about at work is this term product stickiness, which refers to this feedback mechanism through which we measure user value, primarily through how engaging and integral the product we're building is to the end user's overall experience within a platform. And if we consider DS4A empowerment a product, I would say that the single greatest catalyst for me of how sticky the program has been my team. Janet, Derek, and Dee are three of the most professional, hardworking, and bright people that I've ever worked with, and I wouldn't have had the chance to meet them without this program. So our work together has been, it's had a huge impact on me personally, as well as in our data science skills development. Two of us have already taken on increasingly analytical roles professionally, which is, that's a huge testament to the value of this program. I also want to highlight that these individuals, constantly rose to the challenges that we faced, and many came up with awesome solutions for what we wanted to accomplish. We spent many, some might say too many, late nights working on our projects, but this led to two really great outcomes. The first, an actual live website with a beautiful Tableau dashboard and an accurate, interactive, predictive income model, which is amazing, considering that none of us, could code when we came in. Certainly not to this degree. The second outcome is that I've expanded what I call my core network by 3 people, and I genuinely hope to work with you guys again. So a big thank you to Correlation One, to the empowerment team, to this incredible community.
I love Luis's story. His data science for all experience had profound impact. He talks about how it was more than a boot camp, how it's world-class instructors, hands-on interactive teamwork, collaboration, and applied learning approach was way more than just theory. And that gave him a new perspective, the ability to apply data to real-world problems. And just as importantly, he built a new team and set of friends. And this is at the heart of cultural change. Luis reports that he even talks to his family at the dinner table about data, and they might not be so thrilled about that, but his excitement is undeniable. This is the essence of data humanized. It's the intersection of data and humanity. And there's just one more thing. Ultimately, our mission is to empower future workers with data literacy. For Luis, his hard work paid off. He's already taking on new roles professionally, and at work, he's got a new set of colleagues and a new lens to look at the world that's data illuminated. We close with a weekly segment we call The Big Number. We heard from Wes about the data volumes at Best Buy and how they're constantly increasing. And as we know, in the United States, election season's coming. So this week, our big number is 2.4 billion. That's the number of unwanted robocalls we humans in the US receive per month. We also heard from Luis about how he's working on a smarter AI chatbot process. Enterprises need ways to enable people like Luis to better separate the signal from the digital noise, like all those robocalls. To do that, we need ubiquitous data literacy. We need data humanized.
Data Humanized is presented by Correlation One. We're building the enterprise workforce development platform of the future. If you're interested in learning more about how data literacy can power digital transformation at your business, please follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter via our website.